All right, so it is July 27th, approximately 12:15 p.m. on the eastern side. 2025 now, 2025. I am Damika. I am your life force generator, CEO of Life Force Gen Z. Shout out to Mercury retrograde during this season. It is really testing us to take our time to think before we speak, think before we act, not to welcome in old negative energy, welcome in positive energy. It's all a test. It's all a test, right? So with that being said, let me move this up first. What I'm doing is I'm pre-recording. I'm shuffling my decks on up. And this video that we're going to be uploading or recording during 1:30 p.m. is going to be it's going to be me. I'm the creator of hashtag Lost Souls Tarot cards, right? I have over 19 decks. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm colliding decks because 19 is too much. For example, zodiac signs and star systems and planets and what does that say? Star systems. I'm going to put those in one, right? I'm going to put those in one deck now. Now I'm going to integrate those into one deck, and then eventually the zodiac signs and the planets are going to go in the what deck? The astrology deck. Okay? So we're 1 minute and 31 seconds into this video. I'm going to pause this video when it's time for the presentation, right? The video that we're going to be pulling the hashtag Lost Souls Tarot cards to is going to be called Moloch, the ancient evil they tried to erase. Now, earlier I went live. I am going to attempt to go live while I'm still doing this presentation. Okay, so I'll be going live on my cell phone, but also making this a video to present to you all later. But I want to give you all just an example as to how I create, how I think, right? How I create my own reality of what is true, what is a lie, but what is truth and what is a lie. It's all on what you expect to experience within this realm and beyond. You know what I mean? So again, 19 decks, handmade decks that I created. I plan on pulling out 13 of the 13 cards of the following decks, which would be we're going to pull out 13 celebrity cards because this deck is what? This is my stack of money. My knowledge is my stack of money. So out of the celebrities, we're going to pull out 13. And then it can mean that whatever cards I pull out, first of all, remember, every person, place, and thing is under judgment as we are, right? I represent hashtag Lost Souls and regenerating the life within this plane, right? I don't like to say planet because it makes it seem like we're still captured within a planet, right? Net. So within this plane, I am regenerating the life to the best of my ability with the things that I learned and how I present it to you all. While this presentation of Moloch, the ancient evil they tried to erase, which by the way is mythical arcana, at Mythical Arcana, amazing presentation, amazing work, so diligent, so clear. I love the animation within it, incorporated within the truth. I'm not creative in my mind, but I tell you what, babies, y'all got it. So I'm paying homage to Mythical Arcana, right? I'm bouncing off of, Moloch came to me earlier. As a life force generator, Moloch came to me. So I have to learn about what this entity is, because that entity has captured lost souls. And the reason why that entity was conjured up was basically for a lie, to claim false power, if that makes sense, and to enslave those that had the rightful power, if that make even more sense, right? Stick with me. So yeah, Moloch came to me. As a life force generator, I choose not to just banish these entities away no matter how dark they seem. No, they have a story too, and they were conjured up for a reason. So now, because the planes have flipped, right, they now have to go back to their conjurer. And when they come back to you all, whoever you may be, unfortunately, yeah, you have to answer not only Moloch, but all the lost souls that Moloch had to take due to your conjuring. Whew. Okay, so we're going to pull from celebrities. We're going to pull from family, 13 celebrities, 4 family members. So little decks like this, like family, will pull 4 from. Okay, community helpers, 13. Okay, you never know which community helpers are out here. 13 of them are going to be pulled. And this video is going to be longer than 19 minutes, but the video we're going to be pulling from is 19 minutes and 36 seconds. You have the pleasure of watching this pre-video. I'm going to pause this video, and hopefully I'm doing it right, so that way when it's time to go live at 1:30, you have an understanding as to how I move, why I move, and I'm doing my service as to sharing my reality. And what, we all $1 million babies, but I'm gonna make sure I get my $1 billion from everybody that owe me everything that they took from me, right? I claim my power back. I call my energy back, right? I call my power back, right? And that's exactly what I'm doing. So we're gonna pause this here. Much love to you. I'll see you at 1:30. Pausing this at 12:21 p.m. 7:27:25 Eastern side. Now it's 12:22 p.m. All right, what's going on, y'all? I got the live updated, and now I'm gonna go ahead and press play on the. What's up, Augustine? What's up? Now I'm gonna press play on the video. While I'm pressing play on the video, I will no longer talk. I will try not to, right? I'm just going to be pulling the tarot cards because, again, this presentation is going to be longer than 19 minutes and 36 seconds. So if y'all can hang in there, awesome. Hopefully the sun doesn't shy away from what we're doing. All right, let's get into it.
There are names in ancient texts that flicker like shadows, barely explained, quietly condemned, and never spoken twice. But this one burned its way into memory. Moloch. The name alone feels heavy, like ash in your mouth, like smoke that clings to skin long after the fire's gone cold. For centuries, it was whispered in disgust, always with a warning. Prophets condemned him. Kings tried to erase him, and still, that name kept smoldering beneath the surface of history. No long descriptions, no holy genealogies, just a few lines in scripture, raw, brutal, and unforgettable. Do not give your children to Moloch. That was all. No explanation. But who or what was Moloch, really? Some say he was a god, worshipped in fire and iron by ancient nations. Others say he was never real at all, just a name slapped onto rituals that were too horrifying to describe plainly. And then there are those who believe Moloch was, and is, something worse. Not a god, and not a symbol, but a presence.
First, we offer overnight boarding. Your pet will stay overnight in your sitter's home and not only be treated like part of the family, but treated like a king or
a hunger. Across the centuries, through scripture, legend, and demonology, Moloch became more than myth. He became a shape, a face, a flame that asks for the one thing no god should ever demand: sacrifice without love, devotion without mercy, obedience without soul. He doesn't tempt with beauty. He doesn't seduce with lies. He commands. He takes. And those who obey him offer up the very thing they should protect. This is the story of Moloch, the demon king who demanded the sacrifice of children. The first time Moloch appears in the Bible, it's not as a god surrounded by lore or stories. There are no temples described, no origin myths laid out, no worshippers named. He arrives not with context, but with warning. You shall not give any of your children to offer them to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. Leviticus 18:21. There's something unsettling about how abrupt it is. No setup, No explanation. Later, in Leviticus 20, the punishment is made even clearer. Anyone who sacrifices a child to Moloch is to be put to death, and if the community ignores it, God himself promises to turn his face against them. But the most haunting reference lies in the words of the prophet Jeremiah. He writes of a place called Tophet in the valley of Hinnom, just outside the city walls of Jerusalem. A place where people, the prophet says, burned their sons and their daughters in the fire, something I did not command, nor did it enter my mind. That line, nor did it enter my mind, is especially striking. As if the act of child sacrifice wasn't just wicked, but so alien to the divine order that it couldn't even be imagined. Later books like the Second Book of Kings describe how righteous kings like Josiah tried to purge Moloch worship from the land, defiling Tophet, tearing down high places, burning bones on altars to desecrate them. The effort wasn't just about religious reform, it was about erasing something vile, a ritual so foul even silence couldn't cleanse it. Yet despite all this condemnation, the Bible tells us almost nothing about who or what Moloch really was. There are no prayers to him, no stories about him, only destruction in his wake. It's as if his presence was so awful, so universally understood, that ancient writers didn't dare explain him. They didn't need to. They just needed to say his name. Moloch's name is one of the most feared in Scripture, but the truth behind it is murkier than the flames that supposedly surrounded his altar. Was he an actual deity, worshipped with devotion and blood? Or was Moloch something else entirely? Perhaps not a god at all, but a ritual gone horribly wrong. Or even a symbol used to condemn foreign practices. Scholars have debated this for centuries, and there's still no unanimous answer. Some argue that Moloch was a Canaanite or Phoenician deity, possibly linked to Baal or to a regional war god. In this view, the children sacrificed to Tophet weren't metaphor. They were real offerings made to secure favor in battle or to ensure rain during famine. Archaeological digs in Carthage and other Phoenician colonies have uncovered burial grounds filled with the charred remains of infants, what some call Tophets. While those sites are thousands of miles from Jerusalem, the parallels are hard to ignore. But other scholars think differently. They suggest that the word Molech in Hebrew may not have been a proper name at all. Instead, it might refer to a type of sacrifice, not a being, something like a technical term, later misunderstood or deliberately demonized. According to this theory, the rituals condemned in the Bible may have been twisted portrayals of rival cultures' religious ceremonies. And then there's a third view, the one adopted by early Christian theologians and medieval demonologists, that Moloch wasn't just a god or a ritual, but a demonic force. A living hunger that crept into the world through false idols and demanded not just worship, but devastation. For them, Moloch wasn't symbolic. He was real, and he was a threat. What's clear in all of this is that Moloch's identity is deliberately left unclear. He exists in the margins, feared, condemned, never fully explained. And maybe that's the point. Maybe Moloch was always meant to represent more than just one thing. Not just a foreign god, not just a ritual gone wrong, but something deeper, something that can change faces, change names, and still demand the same terrible price.
This is a simple checklist that any student can use to get into an Ivy League school. And we've used this exact checklist for 18 years to get thousands of students into the top 10 universities, including the Ivy Leagues. Here are 3 reasons.
No scripture gives Moloch a clear form, but somewhere between the lines, between the flames, the warnings, and the silence, an image began to take shape. Not from prophets or priests, but from fear itself. He is almost always imagined as towering, cast in bronze or iron, with a bull's head and outstretched arms, a grotesque fusion of man and beast. His body, hollow, his belly, an open furnace. Flames burn within him, not symbolic ones, but real fire, stoked by priests and fed by screams. Sometimes he is seated like a king, legs wide and posture fixed, as if daring the worshiper to approach. Other times he stands tall, his mouth open as if he's roaring or laughing. Some depictions crown him, adding an unsettling layer of royalty to the horror. A king who rules only through pain. Unlike other demons of lore, Moloch is not seductive. He does not whisper in back alleys or charm the weak-hearted. He demands. Obedience is his doctrine. Sacrifice is his language. You do not offer to Moloch because you want to. You offer because you must. Because you've convinced yourself that the thing you love most must be destroyed for your life to move forward. That's his nature. To twist necessity into devotion. To turn love into fuel. His hunger is not for pleasure or revenge. It is for transactional sacrifice. The kind that strips meaning from the act until giving becomes just another step in a ritual. And once it starts, it doesn't end with fire. Moloch consumes legacy. He consumes lineage. His appetite is generational. In demonological texts, he is said to possess dominion over flame and heat, both physical and spiritual. Submission through fear. The breakdown of family bonds. And perhaps most chillingly, the ability to infect systems, institutions, and cultures so that entire societies serve him without ever speaking his name. In some medieval traditions, Moloch isn't even described as having a true form. He's a force, an ideology in motion, one that convinces people to burn their future for the illusion of peace. And that may be his greatest power. He doesn't knock on your door. He builds the house around you. And by the time you smell the smoke, the sacrifice has already begun. Hey everyone, just a quick intermission here. I wanted to say thank you for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. Did you know that over 80% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed to the channel? If you've enjoyed this content so far, it would be incredible if you could hit that subscribe button. It's a small gesture, but it really helps the channel grow and ensures that you won't miss any more of our fascinating stories we explore together. Also, if you're feeling generous, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with anyone else who may enjoy it. Your support really does make a difference and keeps the content coming. Thanks again, and let's get back to the story. As we briefly mentioned before, there is a place just outside the ancient walls of Jerusalem, a valley once known by name, now remembered by what it came to represent, Gehenna. But before it became a symbol for hell itself, it was simply called Tophet, and it was here, according to the prophets, that the worst of it happened. This wasn't a battlefield, it wasn't a temple, it was a site of ritual, a place where fire never stopped burning and the cries of children were swallowed by the sound of drums. Scripture says the people built the high places of Baal to burn their sons in the fire as burnt offerings to Baal and Moloch. Some historians believe Tophet was a designated area for these offerings, a literal furnace of sacrifice carved into the heart of the valley. Bronze statues stood with arms outstretched, glowing from the heat within. Priests would stoke the flames inside the idol until its arms seared hot, then place the children upon them. The fire did the rest. Drums were beaten, loud and fast, not to celebrate, but to drown out the screams. The word Tophet itself may come from Tophet, meaning drum in Hebrew, or from Toph, meaning to burn or smite. Either way, the noise was constant, not for ritual flair, but to hide the sound of horror. There is debate, of course. Some scholars believe these accounts were exaggerated, political attacks meant to demonize rival cultures. Others point to archaeological remains in places like Carthage and Tyre, where urns filled with the charred bones of infants and small animals have been found. Whether those rituals mirrored what happened in Tophet exactly is uncertain, but the memory remains. And in that memory, Moloch waits. Not as a forgotten god, but as the force behind the fire. Not as a name etched in stone, but as the smoke that stained it. In the eyes of the prophets, what happened at Tophet wasn't just a sin. It was blasphemy of the highest order, a reversal of creation itself. A parent was meant to protect their child, but in that valley, they offered them up to the one and only.
One of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right.
At first, Moloch was feared as a foreign god, an idol of fire and death, spoken of with revulsion but not yet fully understood. But over time, something changed. His story stopped being about a rival religion or a brutal cult, and instead became part of a deeper mythos. One that redefined him not as a god at all, but as a demon. This transformation didn't happen overnight. It began in the intertestamental period, those shadowy centuries between the Old and New Testaments, when Jewish thought started expanding into angelology and demonology. In this growing spiritual landscape, false gods like Moloch weren't just empty idols anymore. They were given form, will, and purposeful malice. By the early Christian era, church fathers such as Jerome, Tertullian, and Augustine no longer treated Moloch as a regional deity. Instead, he was reimagined as an active agent of hell, a demonic intelligence working under Satan himself. He was no longer simply the recipient of horrific rituals. He was the one demanding them. The child sacrifice condemned in the Hebrew scriptures was now reframed as demonic possession of culture, a civilization so far gone that it mistook damnation for devotion, and Moloch stood at the heart of it, grinning behind the flames. During the medieval period, grimoires and demonological texts began to categorize the infernal order, naming demons, ranking them, assigning them dominions. Moloch, though not as frequently mentioned as others like Beelzebub or Lucifer, was still present. Often placed among the princes of hell or described as a great general of Satan's armies, his domain was always the same: sacrifice, fire, and cruelty made ritual. What made Moloch different from other demons was that he didn't corrupt with temptation, he corrupted with structure. He built systems of evil that made atrocity feel normal. His worship didn't happen in secret backrooms or wild frenzies. It happened in broad daylight, under the watchful eyes of priests, nobles, and kings. By the time the Renaissance came around, Moloch was no longer seen as a rival deity of ancient Canaan. He was a metaphysical threat, a dark archetype whose hunger had no boundaries. And in the minds of theologians, mystics, and poets, that made him more dangerous than ever. Moloch may have begun as an ancient name spoken in fear, but his story didn't end in scripture. Long after temples crumbled and rituals faded, the idea of Moloch took on new forms, shifting, evolving, and embedding itself into art, poetry, politics, and even modern conspiracy. He reappears with chilling force in John Milton's Paradise Lost, where he is no longer a silent idol, but a demon general, a fiery warlord among the fallen angels. Milton's Moloch is a creature of blunt fury who urges open war against heaven. He is brutal, honest, unrelenting, the embodiment of destruction for its own sake. Sacrifice without strategy, fire without form. Centuries later, Moloch appears again, this time in Allen Ginsberg's 1955 poem, Howl, where he becomes a metaphor for industrial society. In Ginsberg's words, Moloch, whose mind is pure machinery, Moloch, whose blood is running money, Moloch, whose fingers are 10 armies. Here, Moloch isn't a god or a demon in a supernatural sense, but a force driving the soul out of modern life, a system of cold efficiency and endless appetite. The factories, the war machines, the bureaucracies that demand everything and give nothing back. In this vision, Moloch devours not children, but dreams, passion, humanity itself. In political and philosophical commentary, Moloch resurfaces again and again, often used to describe any system that devours innocence for progress, sacrifices truth for order, or demands obedience over morality. He becomes a symbol for the unstoppable logic of systems that consume people to keep running. War, capitalism, authoritarianism, even broken bureaucracies. And in more modern folklore, especially in conspiracy theories, Moloch is invoked with fresh paranoia. Some point to rumors surrounding secret societies like the Bohemian Grove, where an effigy of a giant owl is burned during ritual. Though the figure is officially not Moloch, some conspiracy circles insist it is, seeing the ancient demon as the hidden face behind modern power. Whether true or not, the idea persists because it speaks to something deeper. The fear that those in control are still making sacrifices, and we just don't see them anymore.
I want to get rid of this visceral fat. Check this out.
This is how to get in shape fast.
What is the best?
Moloch has become more than a demon. He's become a language we use to describe the thing we feel but can't name. The sense that something is being fed and we don't know what or who is next. Moloch may have vanished from altars, but his hunger never left. He no longer stands in bronze, burning in the valley of Hinnom. The drums are gone, the fire is cold, and yet his presence still lingers. In the choices we make, the systems we serve, the sacrifices we allow ourselves to call necessary. That's the real horror of Moloch. He doesn't need to be summoned. He appears whenever something precious is traded away. Not for love or meaning, but for convenience, control, or fear. He shows up in every corner of the world where the weak are crushed to make room for the powerful, where innocence is spent like currency, where people are told that pain is the price of order, and that the only thing worse than cruelty is resisting it. And the worst part, he doesn't have to ask. We bring the offering ourselves. Maybe that's why Moloch's story still matters. Not because he ruled with fire, but because we keep relighting it. Not because he was a god, but because he reflects something we still refuse to face. A demon like Moloch doesn't vanish. He evolves. He adapts. And as long as people are willing to trade life for power, comfort, or silence, he will be fed.
Alright, so that was the end of the video. I didn't get through even half of the deck, y'all. Even half. Much love to y'all that stuck it through.